Let me ask you something. If a police officer walked up to your car window right now and said, "Can I see your ID?" what would you do? I'm guessing you'd hand it over immediately, no hesitation, because that's what good people do. That's what cooperative, law-abiding people do. And here's the thing, you might be completely right to do that. Or you might have just handed an officer the legal key to detain you for the next 45 minutes, search your car, and open an investigation that had nothing to do with why they pulled you over in the first place. The difference between those two outcomes comes down to one thing you almost certainly don't know, and that nobody teaches you until something goes very wrong. I'm traffic defense attorney. I've defended thousands of people in criminal cases, and I'm going to show you today exactly what that ID request really means, when you're required to comply, when you're not, and the precise words that protect you without ever making the situation worse. And I need you to stay until the 7-minute mark, because I'm going to cover something that almost no other legal video touches on. What happens when you're the passenger and that question gets aimed at you? Section 1. What handing over your ID actually triggers. Here's what most people picture when they hear "show me your ID." They picture a quick check, a clean record, a wave, and they're back on the road in 2 minutes. Here's what can actually happen. The moment you hand over your driver's license during a traffic stop, you have officially confirmed your identity to law enforcement. That triggers something called a records check, not just for warrants, but for anything associated with your name, your plates, your address. Now, maybe that comes back clean. Great, you're on your way. But here's what nobody tells you. That records check takes time. And during that time, the officer is under no obligation to just stand there quietly. They can talk to you. They can ask questions. They can look around. And what they see, hear, or smell during that window, all of it is legally fair game. So let me walk you through the 3 situations where that simple handoff goes sideways. Situation 1, the expired registration. You hand over your ID. The officer runs it. Your registration lapsed 3 weeks ago. You forgot. That is now a citable violation the officer didn't have before you gave them your license. You created the evidence. Situation 2, the outstanding fine. Maybe you have an unpaid ticket parking, a minor violation, whatever that's escalated to a warrant. The officer didn't stop you for that, but now they know. And depending on the state, that warrant gives them justification to take you in, which gives them justification to search your vehicle incident to that arrest. Situation 3, the welfare check that becomes an investigation. The officer stops you not for a moving violation, but because someone called in a concern. It starts completely informal. Hey, just checking you're okay. You're friendly. You hand over your ID. And now what started as a 5-second check has turned into a full stop with your information in their system. The ID didn't cause those problems by itself, but handing it over before you understood what kind of stop you were actually in is what opened the door. Section 2, 3 situations, different rules. Now here's the part that confuses almost everyone, because people treat all police ID requests as if they're the same. They are not. There are 3 completely different legal situations, and they each operate under different rules. Situation 1, you are the driver in a traffic stop. This one is simple. If you are operating a vehicle on a public road and you are stopped for a traffic violation, you are required to provide your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance. Full stop. No debate, no invoking rights on this one. You must hand those documents over. That's the law in every state. What you are not required to do is answer any other questions beyond those documents. Situation 2, you are a pedestrian who has been stopped. This is where it gets interesting. In what are called stop and identify states, and there are about 24 of them, if an officer has reasonable suspicion that you were involved in a crime, they can legally require you to identify yourself. That usually means stating your name and address. It does not mean producing a physical ID in most of those states. But here's the critical word: reasonable suspicion. That's a legal standard. You were walking in this neighborhood is not reasonable suspicion. The officer has to be able to articulate specific facts. If you're not in a stop and identify state, or if reasonable suspicion doesn't exist, you may not be required to identify yourself at all. Situation 3. You are a passenger in someone else's vehicle. This one is the one I need you to pay attention to because the rules for passengers are completely different from the rules for drivers. And I'm going to come back to this in detail in just a few minutes. For now, here's the big picture principle. Your obligation to identify yourself is tied to your legal status in the stop, not to the fact that a uniformed officer is asking. Knowing which situation you're actually in is the entire game. Section 3. The word-for-word scripts. All right, here are your 3 scripts. Write these down. Screenshot this. Send this to every person you care about. Script 1. You are the driver. The officer asks for ID. Officer, license, registration, insurance, please. You hand those documents over immediately and say nothing else. That's it. You have now fulfilled your legal obligation completely. If the officer then asks, "Where are you headed? What are you doing out here?" You say, "Officer, I'm happy to have provided my documents. I'm going to decline to answer any other questions." Not angry, not sarcastic, flat, calm, like you've said this 100 times and it means nothing to you emotionally. Script 2, you are on foot and an officer approaches. Officer, "Hey, can I see some ID?" You say, "Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go?" That question forces legal clarity. If they say you're free to go, then go calmly, without rushing. If they say you are being detained, you ask why, and depending on your state's stop and ID law, you may need to provide your name. If they push and you're in a stop and ID state, you say, "Officer, I'll give you my name. I'm not answering any other questions." Script 3. Officer asks a follow-up question after reviewing your ID. They've got your license, they've run it, it came back clean, and now they say, "So what are you up to tonight?" You say, "Officer, I appreciate you. I'm not going to answer questions about my day. Am I free to go?" Ask that question every single time. Am I free to go? It is the most powerful 4 words in a traffic stop. It either ends the stop or it establishes that you are being detained, which changes your legal status and your rights immediately. Notice what all 3 scripts have in common. No sarcasm, no speeches, not quoting the Constitution at someone who has a gun and a rough Tuesday behind them. Just calm, clear, repeatable language that asserts your rights without escalating the energy. Section 4, the role play. Let me show you exactly how this plays out in 2 versions of the same stop. Watch what changes. Version 1, how most people do it. Officer approaches. Evening, license and registration. Driver, "Sure, yeah, absolutely." Fumbles around, hands it over. "I was just heading home from work. I'm not sure what I did wrong." Officer, "How long were you at work?" Driver, Just a normal shift, I mean. I stopped at a bar, actually, with some coworkers, but just for like 1 drink. I'm totally fine, though." And there it is. 1 drink. Admitted voluntarily. The officer had 0 reason to suspect impairment before that sentence. Now they have reason for a field sobriety test, which turns into a breath test, which turns into a 90-minute ordeal even if the driver is completely fine to drive. The stop was never about the driver's behavior. It was about what came out of the driver's mouth. Version 2, the same stop done right. Officer, evening, license and registration. The driver hands over the documents immediately. No drama, says nothing. Officer, long night. Driver, "Officer, I'm happy to have provided my documents. I'm not going to answer any questions about my day." Officer, something to hide. Driver, "I'm invoking my 5th Amendment right. Am I free to go?" Same stop, same officer. Completely different outcome. Because the second driver understood one thing, you do not have to narrate your own evening to the person investigating you. The goal in any police interaction is not to be the friendliest person in the conversation. The goal is to get home. Section 5, the passenger trap. Now here's the section I promised you, and this might be the most important part of this entire video for a lot of you because you may have never thought about this scenario at all. You are a passenger. Your friend is driving, the officer pulls them over, everything is going fine until the officer leans down, looks past your friend, and says, "Can I see your ID too?" What do? Here's what most people do. They hand it over because it feels weird not to, because the officer is right there, because saying no feels aggressive. Here's what the law actually says in most states. As a passenger, you are under no obligation to identify yourself unless the officer has independent, reasonable suspicion that you, specifically you, not the driver, have been involved in criminal activity. The fact that you are sitting in a car that was pulled over is not by itself reasonable suspicion of anything about you. Now, in this matters, some states have expanded their stop and ID laws to include passengers in traffic stops. You need to know your state's specific law. But in states where no such expansion exists, your answer can be, "Officer, with respect, am I being detained independently or am I free to go?" That question recenters the interaction on what the law actually requires. Now I want to be direct with you about something. I'm not telling you to be combative. A lot of officers will simply move on. They asked, you politely declined, the stop proceeds normally. But sometimes that question triggers a more aggressive response. And if it does, if the officer insists, raises their voice, tells you that you're making this difficult, here's your response. "Officer, I understand. I am not resisting. I'm calmly invoking my rights. If I am being detained, I'd like to know the basis." Calm, flat, boring. Boring is the whole game, because here is the truth. An officer who gets angry at you for asserting your constitutional rights is the exact officer you need those rights against. Let me bring this home. Here's what I want you to walk away understanding. Showing ID isn't inherently dangerous. Refusing it when you're legally required to provide it can make things much worse. The danger is in not knowing the difference in handing over information reflexively, out of habit and social pressure, without understanding what it opens up. Knowledge is the thing that changes the outcome, not attitude, not arguing, not knowing case law. Just knowing what you are and aren't required to do and having the calm, clear words ready when the moment comes. Here are your 3 scripts one final time. Script 1, traffic stop, documents only. I'm happy to provide my documents. I'm not going to answer any other questions. Script 2, being asked to identify yourself on foot. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Script 3, any follow-up question, any situation, I'm invoking my 5th Amendment right. Am I free to go? 3 scripts, 2 sentences each. Memorize them, practice them, say them out loud on your commute tomorrow morning until they come out of you automatically, because the moment you actually need them, your adrenaline will be running, and automatic is the only thing that works. Share this video with one person who needs it, because the best time to learn this is not after something goes wrong. If you've been charged with a crime and you want to talk through your options, my team is here. We'll give you a real conversation, no pressure. And always, always know your rights before you need them. I'll see you in the next one.